Okay, I'm Al Regnery. I'm the publisher and the president of Republic Book Publishers, a nonfiction publishing company situated near Washington, D.C. And we're the proud publishers of a book by Hung Cao and his wife, April, the title of which is Call Me an American, Refugee to Patriot, Lessons Learned for a Strong America. And Hung, of course, is running for the U.S. Senate in Virginia. He won the primary recently and is a Republican candidate. We'll have an interesting race against Tim Kaine throughout the fall, and the results will be announced early in November. And Hung, if things go right, will be a United States senator, which is a wonderful privilege. That's the considered the best club in the world. The Senate is. So if Hung is there, we will certainly all be proud. Anyway, as I mentioned, the title of the book is Call Me an American. Hung, why did you call it that?
Al, thank you again for having me on the show, and also for allowing me to write this book. You came to me a year and a half ago saying, hey, what would you think about writing a book? And so here we are a year and a half later. And it was after I lost in the 2022 congressional race in the 10th congressional district. This includes Loudoun County, where the school board was attacking parents. And my opponent, Jennifer Wexton, at the time, kept calling me for everything from a racist to a bigot to a threat to democracy. Remember, this is a person who was thanking me for my service 6 months before. She called me everything from that to an extremist and made up all sorts of names too. But in a debate, I said, you know what? I fought and bled for this country, and I deserve to be called an American. So this the title of this book is kind of a homage to her too, for her her inability to see Americans as who they are, and not give us names and labels to demonize us.
So did you learn anything from that campaign that went into the book?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just very telling of what the American people feel like. And, people, I think, lost hope. And so this is kind of call to action to Americans, a call to action to say, hey, if you believe in these things, you need to stand up for it, and you need to make your voice be heard. And I think we're going to see this in 2024. I think enough people are going to be tired of this. But it's also a little bit of my story. So it's my wife and I wrote this. Let's be very honest here. My wife wrote this. I'm an engineer and a physicist by education. And so I like things that are in either charts or bullet formats or graphs. And so she was able to meld everything together in a really, really nice and appealing way through her words. So, we learned a lot through this, and this is kind of our love letter to our children and to America also.
So the subtitle is Lessons Learned for a Strong America. What are some of those lessons?
Well, the first thing is the American dream, right? The American dream, the first chapter is that it's not dead. I mean, it's the story of how it came to this country as a refugee. And, we talk about things like meritocracy. We talk about things like, that the enemy doesn't care how you feel. Like, in combat, just like in anything else, when I commanded the Naval Diving Salvage Training Center, we trained 1,400 special operations divers from the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard. And I always tell people, we have the same standards for everybody, regardless of you're a man, woman, black, white, green. I don't care, because things like the sea and hardships and adversity and war, it's going to kill you just the same. So we're going to prepare you. And so likewise with life here, they don't care whether you're the son of a president or an immigrant. It's gonna, life is gonna be hard for all of us, and so we need to embrace that. And so these are the lessons we taught our children, and also lessons we learned along with the way, hard and good. And it's about rallying, people that believe in the same values as we do.
Of course, those lessons are all set forth in the book, and some of the reasons for them and so on. So as the publisher, I certainly want people to read the book, and I think that actually, as you said, those lessons are so important for everything that goes on today, that readers will find that to be those lessons to be really part of their life as well. So as you wrote a book, I've written a couple of books, and of course I've published a lot of them, and I know that when you write anything, you learn a lot about it. So tell us about what you learned from writing the book. I mean, obviously you had all these things in your head, and you've lived an amazingly interesting life from the time you were 3-year-old refugee from Vietnam through the Naval Academy and all the other things you did. But in terms of the writing process, did it help you sort of solidify your ideas and your positions on things?
No, absolutely. We all have our basic fundamental, beliefs, in God, family, country, and putting that on paper, and say, okay, what do we really believe in? Or what are we willing to die on the hill for? And so these are the things that we're willing to put online. I mean, it's really open the kimono, and you're opening a lot about yourself. I've told a lot of stories about my past that, people didn't know, about failure, how important failure is, and how it got me where I am. Looking back now, honestly, I would not do anything different. All the failures, all the hardships, all the tears, that went along the way, it made me the man I am today. And so I would never do anything different if I had to go back in time, only because, it made me the person I am. Even losing in 2022, allowed me to have this platform to move ahead in 2024. And like you said, we won the primary pretty handily. There was five other candidates in the race in 2024, and we won with 62% of the votes, and we won every single county in Virginia.
So, Hung, do you think it's fair to say that if you get elected, that what's in the book will shape the kind of senator you become?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't put things on paper unless you really truly believe it, because they'll come back and bite you in the end. No, everything we put in the book is what I've been saying for years, and it's what we believe in.
So that would be a sort of a primer for anybody that wants to know what you're thinking about as a senator. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Especially when we're talking about, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Absolutely.
That's a big part of the book. Yeah, talk about that for a minute. I mean, certainly as an immigrant, as an Asian American, you fit some of those things that they talk about in DEI. So how has that affected you? What do you see, and what would your position be on the Senate floor when you start talking about those things?
I mean, all those words, if you put together, I mean, first of all, diversity. I mean, why we want diversity, right? I mean, we don't want everybody that's an engineer. We don't want all lawyers up there. We want diversity in backgrounds and diversity of where we came from and what our beliefs are. That's the important diversity we need. Diversity is not about the color of your skin. It's about the background that you all have that's unique. And then equity sounds a lot like equality, right? But it's not the same thing, because equality means everybody starts at the same level. Equity means everybody finishes the same level. And I mean, look at me. I'm never going to play in the NBA or the NFL, right? That's not how God made me. And so, to expect, someone like me to be in the NFL or NBA is just, it's ludicrous. It's just like, but what we want is equality. We want everybody to start at the same level. I just want the same chance as everybody else. And that's what we asked for when we came to this country. And inclusion, obviously, we always want inclusion. We should never push anybody back for their background. But I mean, we're seeing that now through Hamas, pro-Hamas people, flying the Palestinian flag and keeping Jewish students from going to schools. I mean, gosh, what were we back in the 50s again? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And if it's not, if it's not the Jews, then it's not the Christians, it's not the Catholics, then who's next? The Muslims, they're going to attack them for praying 5 times a day. It never ends. Hate is this beast that is never satisfied. And so if we put that behind us, then we will be a stronger nation, because we're definitely stronger together than we are torn apart.
Well, you've had an interesting life, of course, and you'll be able to talk about those things from that perspective, I'm sure, if you get elected. So you're a veteran, and I can't remember how many veterans there are in Virginia, but there are a lot of them. And I'm sure that as you go around the state, you're meeting a lot of veterans and so on. Don't know how many veterans there are in the Senate. It used to be that virtually everybody was, but today it's probably not more than a handful. So as a veteran, you talk about your experiences in the book and about veterans, but tell us a little bit about how you see the veteran community and how we treat them and what can be done, and sort of what your perspective is on that whole issue.
Well, the first thing is, the last person that wants us to go to war, especially endless wars, is a veteran. Someone who's seen death and tasted death, and understand what it's like to hold on to a friend's hand, as they pass away. I mean, those are hard things in war. And so the last person that wants us to go to war will be a veteran that's actually been to combat. Um, and, we get thanked, I think they think of us 3 days in the year, right? The um, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Veterans Day. And the other 362 days, we're just used as cannon fodder. We use as a photo op or whatever. But when they do things like, put illegal aliens ahead of veterans, for example, and pretend there's not 80,000 homeless veterans in the United States right now, or in Virginia, the Democrat Assembly, the House of delegates and the Senate voted down a bill that would give veterans and military survivors and dependents free education if they're 90 to 100% disabled. This includes also first responders. They had to have a special session, and they had to twist a lot of arms to take that off the docket as an offset for a bill. I mean, that's what we are to them. It's just, you're just a number that, like, they can just scratch this off, and who cares what it does to our community, for example. And so it's hurtful because they really don't care about veterans. I mean, the Democrats have been very clear that they just hate veterans. I mean, they only use this for, like I said, for Memorial Day and Veterans Day and 4th of July. And other than that, they forget about us. And so this is why it's important to have veterans in Congress and in the Senate, so that we can look out for veterans as well. People who've actually suffered and paid very heavy tolls for this country. I mean, we have 22 veterans who commit suicide every day in the United States.
So on the same vein, you talk quite a bit in the book about the military and our readiness and how we need to do that. Talk about that a little bit. And I know that you've, of course, you've been through, what were you in the Navy for 25 years, something like that, and so you've experienced the change in our armed forces and so on. But it's certainly an important topic, and again, it's something that's in the book throughout. And tell us a little bit about what you think and what the book says about readiness, military readiness.
Well, I mean, we're no longer prioritizing the things that are important. It's the alpha males and alpha females that are really going to rip out their own guts, eat it, and ask for seconds. And that's the problem we have right now, is a woke military that's more worried about DEI and critical race theory and everything else than they are about readiness. We need to prepare these men and women for war. And all they have is TikTok influencers who want to, guys who want to wear lipsticks and dance around on TikTok, instead of really concentrating on the aspect of war. I mean, we do have people that hate America. The Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, the North Koreans, and the terrorist cells, and they're all working together. And that's why we need to have a strong military. We have a problem in recruiting right now because of a weak president and a weak leadership in the Department of Defense right now. And so that's only going to be solved when we actually look out for our veterans and look out for the active duty service members. So that's what we need to do right now to get readiness back up. We didn't have a recruitment problem 10 years ago. We didn't have a recruitment problem 4 years ago. It's just right now, when we abandon people in Afghanistan, when we have service members who were killed, and the president of the United States forgets that they died on his watch. The 2 SEALs, the 3 soldiers in Jordan, and then the 13, the 11 Marines, 1 soldier and 1 sailor in Afghanistan when he left them at Abbey Gate. So, why would anybody want to join the military? They see the military turning backs. Don't forget that tens of thousands of military people, personnel that were kicked out because they refused to take the COVID vaccine, an untested vaccine that had some adverse reactions to a lot of service members.
Well, and the book certainly has a good firsthand account from somebody that was there about all these things. And I must say that having read it now 2 or 3 times, I get a lot of more information out every time I read it about all of this.
I hope I still get your vote from that, though, Al, after reading it 3 or 4 times.
Well, you will. How about the border? You talk about the border quite a bit. Obviously, a big political issue. You came across a border yourself, not illegally, but so you're a legal immigrant. You sort of understand the border issue. if you get elected, I'm not sure. Are there any other immigrants in the Senate?
I don't know. I mean, not in the Senate, I don't think. I know
I
in
think there are, but
the
so
Congress there. Yes, sir. No,
I
you're
mean,
absolutely right.
you had you were only 3 years old, so you don't remember probably very much about it. But nevertheless, you are an immigrant. We've got 10 million immigrants in the country now. You can talk about that. You understand the issue. I think you've been down to the border a couple of times, have
I
you
have
not?
been, yes. So
And
I mean,
so,
I came here as a refugee, and then we immediately picked up and moved to West Africa, and I know what it's like living overseas. We spent 7 years over there, and then we came back here. But we did everything legally, like you said. You know, my parents were so proud. My dad, the last thing he had hanging over his bed before he passed away 2.5 years ago was his naturalization certificate. You know, we were so proud of being Americans, and that's why I served in the military, because I want to pay back this country for its generosity. But you know, my problem with these people coming over here illegally is like your first act of wanting to be an American should not be breaking our laws. But then you also have to embrace the American culture, right? That's what they're not doing. When you're planting the Venezuelan flag or or flying the Palestinian flag and screaming death to America, then that's not what's needed here. You know, you need to come here and be part of the society and contribute to this country, not take away you know, I mean, they get a $5,000 gift card when they come here. They get a free cell phone that you and I pay for. They also get, you know, a plane ticket anywhere, and they get put up in hotels with room service at the Waldorf. I mean, I can't make this stuff up. In New York City, they're occupying very high-end hotels, and when we move them out from there to a tent city, they protest and they come back, walk right back in and demand to be back in the this lush hotel room with room service. I mean, who gets that? Like I said, we have military service members that are on WIC and food stamps, and we also have 80,000 homeless veterans. Why can't we take care of them? There's plenty of people in the United States to take care of, but you know, if we're looking for offsets to pay for things like Social Security, so we can afford, you know, pay back the American people for what they paid into to Social Security and Medicare, then why don't we take away the $1 billion a day that we spend on illegal immigrants, you know, to house them and feed them?
exactly. Hung, you have an interesting chapter near the end of the book that you call "If I Were the Enemy." Now that was really interesting. I mean, you sort of put yourself on the other side, and tell us a little bit about that and how you devised that, and sort of what it means and how it fits into the book.
Oh, so, you know, one of the things we do in special operations, we do threat assessments. You know, the best way to you know, defend a post, for example, is put yourself in the shoes of the enemy and see where they would strike first. So I mean, it definitely comes after the October 7th massacre in Israel, and you know, the enemy doesn't need that right now to fly in on a paraglider in the middle of the night, you know, during a concert anymore, because they're already here. They came through the southern border. There's tens of thousands of military-aged males from countries like China, Yemen, Syria that are here now. They have a strong foothold. And also the left has been attacking us through, you know, the communists have really infiltrated our schools, and they've really twisted, you know, the narrative. And I mean, when, like I said, when college students are screaming death to America, and you know, from the river to the sea, they have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what that means. They want to eradicate the only Jewish state in the world, and that's, if that's not genocide. And then calling, the funniest thing is calling uh, you know, the Israelis fascist or Nazis. Like, you have no idea what you're saying. I mean, they're, if anything, they're the antithesis of that. But you know, this is what they do. They blur the lines. They twist words around, and they get us through the children. And so that's that. I believe the enemy has already infiltrated our country through the schools and everything else, and they teach our kids all these you know, these things that are anti-American, I think. I mean, that's, I don't know what else to call it. It's just really, they go against the fabric of what we are as a nation. I mean, I saw a video this weekend. This man, he was so angry at the beach because, again, this 4th of July weekend, he he's angry because somebody had an American flag, and you know, he's just going on a rant. Like, what do you have a problem with the American flag? I mean, if that's not the most inclusive flag in the world, then I don't know what is. I mean, just go look at this summer when we march out on the Olympic field in Paris, look at the difference between the American team and any other team in the world. Every other team out there is homogeneous. Our team looks like the colors of the rainbow. There's all walks of life out there. The United States is the
Right.
most inclusive country in the world.
So all of this obviously is spelled out in this book, and we're very proud of it. It's just going into its second printing. It hasn't been out for too long, but in terms of your campaign, obviously, I'm sure you're having 5-minute talks here and 10-minute talks, but somebody can take this book and get of a couple hundred pages, get a very thorough idea of what you're all about and what kind of a senator you would be. So hope people will read it, and when they do, I think they'll get to know Hung Cao very well and they'll like him. So thanks very much, Hung. And we certainly will look forward to continue to work with you as we can pry you away from the campaign to promote the book. So
No, thank you. Again, the timing is almost like it's. I never thought the timing would be more perfect because when you offered me this, to publish this book a year and a half ago, I hadn't even considered running for office again because I mean I was still coming off of the congressional race, and it was hurtful, to lose. And when you offered me that book, my wife and I jumped on it, the opportunity, and we wrote it, and it was done last year. And but the timing of it coming out now, it's almost I don't know, it's almost divine. So thank you so much.
good. Okay, very good.